Hi, I'm Lizzie and welcome to my garden here at the Rose Press. I'm going to show you how to plant a plant. Now for some of you it might be really obvious, but I know for me when I was starting out it's really useful just to have a few handy tips on how to get a plant from a pot into the ground. So I'm going to grab my fork and I will soon show you. So I've got two plants here. This one is an Amimajus which I sowed in autumn last year and it's now spring, so it's ready to go out into the garden. I've hardened it off for 2 weeks by putting it outside during the day and inside at night, and it's firmly ready to go into the ground. And then I've also got a larger pot here which is from Garden Centre, bought plant, which is a Geum Maito, which is a gorgeous apricot coloured geum which I think will look lovely in this border here. So I just wanted to show you whether you grow from seed or whether you buy from the Garden Centre, it's done in exactly the same way. Now, one of the top tips, once you know where you're going to plant it, is when you get your pot, you put your fingers either side of the stem. You never ever pull a plant out of a pot. You put your hands like that, tip it over, give the pot a squeeze, and it will lift off. And then you don't damage the stem by pulling it out, and it means that you're then ready to then turn it over and plant it. So always make sure that you use that method. If you water it beforehand and let it drain, then the compost won't sort of tip out, and also the roots should be holding all of that compost together. So you just turn it upside down and lift like that. And it's exactly the same for this bigger plant. So I might just hold it like that, give it a good squeeze, and actually this one's come off really easily and it will hold like that. So that's my first top tip. The second is when you are buying plants at garden centres, all good garden centres will let you do this in the garden centre, and you want to make sure that your plants aren't root bound. So you want to make sure that there's plenty of roots on there. This one's actually quite healthy, but sometimes you might see in the garden centre loads and loads and loads of roots, and often they'll be going round and round in circles, and that's what we call root bound, which means that the plant has been in too small a pot for too long. Now this one's actually looking really good and really healthy. It's starting to get a little bit root bound, so it's ready to go into the ground. So I'll plant that out today and show you how. So yeah, like I say, any good garden centre will let you do that in the garden centre. If they don't, then they're probably not a very good garden centre. And obviously you need to be careful with the plants, but it shows before you buy something that it's a good garden centre and nursery if they've not got things that are too root bound. So I'm going to plant this Amimajus. I'm going to scrape back my bark because I've got a bark mulch here, and I'm going to put it in the middle because it's quite tall. So I'm going to scrape that back and dig a hole, and often you want to dig the hole bigger than the pot, so I won't just dig a hole for the pot, I'll dig it slightly larger, and that just breaks up the soil around it and allows the roots to grow a little bit further. So you might not be able to see exactly what I'm doing, but I'm basically just loosening up the soil around it, digging a nice big hole. I'll then use the trick like that to tip it over, and this one you can see is ready to go out. It probably could have been in the pot a little bit longer, but it's got a good set of roots ready to go into the ground. So I'll then pop that the right way up and then cover the soil back around the plant, and then firm it a little bit in place, and then I'll just put that bark back over the top, and then what I will do is give that a really good water to get it established. And because we've broken up all the soil around it, the roots will not just get stuck in there. But if you've got a really clay soil, a bit like me, and you haven't mulched it or looked after it, you can end up like just digging a hole, and it can be like a bowl and the roots can't get out because the ground is too thick. So you would want to break it up around it, add lots of nutrients. I love using Plant Grow, which helps break down the soil and add lots of nutrients. That really helps. So yeah, so that's how to plant the plants, and I'll also go and show you how to do this one next. So I'm now going on to plant up my geum, which is in a much larger pot, so it needs a much larger hole, and it took me a little while to find a space in this border where I actually had room to plant it, because there's so much else. Obviously loads of bulbs, there's a few dahlias that are in the ground that haven't quite shooted up yet, but I need to make sure that I don't obviously go into them. So I'm going to plant it on this bit here, and the reason I'm doing it is because this linearia is going to grow quite tall, and I want something to kind of go, obviously these bulbs will die down, we've got some other bits growing up here, so it feels like this space will be just enough for this plant. So again, digging a nice big hole for this one. Found a plant label, don't know where that's coming from. Probably to remind me that there's a dahlia. In fact, there is a dahlia there. I just dug through a dahlia. Right, we'll leave that one. We'll find a new space for this one. I don't think I'm going to brave digging there anymore. I'll leave that one and I'm going to take it to a garden. There's plenty of room here, and this bit of the this part of the garden gets a little bit of shade, so this isn't good for Gian. But here is where it will get some sun. So I've planted a berry rose there, so I think it will look really nice next to that. So I'm going to go in the middle here. I'm digging a nice big hole. Probably could have used a border fork, to be honest, because there's not a lot else in the ground here. You can see all of the plant growing being mixed into my garden now, which is really good, but it's still quite clay here, so I'm just breaking it up. Massive stone. I'll make sure I take that out of the garden. This is a nice big hole, and I've broken up the surface around it. So we'll do the same trick, turn it upside down, take the pot off and pop that in the hole. Make sure that the top of it is in line with the soil, and then I'll just push the soil all back around and firm it down slightly around it. Now that looks really healthy there. I think that's going to really thrive in this spot here. So I'll now go and give it a really good water.